I really like the eggs. Look at that. Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by saying that I will not be having a live stream today and or on Friday. Our next live stream will be this coming Sunday, the day after Christmas, where I will be sharing with you the Christmas presents that I received this year. My wife was cleaning out the freezer and found these two beef hearts that I received as a gift a few months back. And at first I really did not know what to do with them, but I began to think, in my opinion, soul food is food that is made out of necessity, and that the simplest of dishes should thrive with the simplest of ingredients. So I have decided to make dirty meat, or carne sucia, as it is called in Spanish. For those of you who may be here for the first time, first of all, welcome and thank you for joining in. So let me tell you what I try to do with my cooking videos. I know that there are plenty of channels on YouTube that are very classy and use high-end ingredients and equipment, but I try to bring it down to what the average person can do at home in a simple kitchen and with simple ingredients. So if you ever find yourself with a beef heart and don't know what to do with it, stay tuned, because, spoiler alert, this comes out awesome. Holding and touching this beef heart is evident that it is a very tough muscle, and it should be, because it's in motion for the entire life of the cow. So the first order of business is to get it as tender as possible by cooking it on low and slow. As you can see, I've added both of my hearts to this pot with about 1 cup of water and a good amount of this Hawaiian pink sea salt that one of you sent me a while back. I will turn the heat on high until it starts to simmer. Then I will transfer the pot to the smallest burner and set it to the lowest setting, as I'm guessing that I had this on low heat between 9 and 12 hours. This is what it looks like after cooking for about 6 hours on a slow burn. As you can see, it looks a bit dry and it's not very tender. It tastes good, it's not off-putting, but it tastes a little too beefy and it could be more tender. I'm going to cook it for a few more hours to see if we can get it a bit more tender. Alright ladies and gentlemen, I cooked this for about another 4.5 hours, so a total of about 10.5 hours, and now it is pretty tender as it stands. What I'm going to do now is let this come to room temperature. I'm going to let this rest inside of my refrigerator overnight, because it's like 9:30 in the evening right now. And this is what it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, after I take it out of my refrigerator after having it sit there overnight. As you can see, the fat has hardened up and it doesn't have that much fat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the stove top. I'm going to go ahead and heat it up just enough so that that fat melts away, to make it easier to work with as I put it on my cutting board and shred it by hand. And as you can see, it is very stringy, but it is a lot more tender than what it was the first time that I tried it. So now I'm going to go ahead and shred this all by hand, and then we're going to go ahead and start making our rice. One thing I did forget to mention is that after you shred it, you want to put all of the shredded meat back in the pot so that it can soak up all of the juices that are still there. Don't get rid of those juices. Those are going to come in handy to add some additional flavor to this meat. As you can see here, all I did was put it back in here, stirred it around. I'm going to put the lid back on, leave it alone for a few minutes while we make our rice, and then we'll get back to cooking our carne sucia. For the rice, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to make a savory yellow rice. As you can see here, I have 1.5 cups of long grain rice, and you saw that I added probably about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You're going to want to add 1 pack of Sazon Goya. This is what's going to give that rice that yellow look, and it also does a lot to give it a good flavor. In addition to that, we're going to add 1 small pack of chicken bouillon in the powder form. And I hope you're watching this video, the one of you that sent me this chicken bouillon, Now this is not going to make the rice taste like chicken, but it's going to give it another layer of flavor, and it's just going to make it very tasty. Of course, we have to add some oil. I prefer to add a flavor neutral oil. You can add whatever oil you want to your rice. It should be just fine. And you're probably looking at about 2 tablespoons of oil, followed by about 2 3/4 cups of water. Now what we're going to do is this. We're going to go ahead and bring this to a boil after we stir it around a little bit. Once it comes to a boil, we'll give it one final stir. We'll go ahead and put our lid on. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and move this over to our smallest burner and set the smallest burner to the lowest setting and set our timer for 25 minutes. Make sure you don't take that lid off for anything, ladies and gentlemen, or else you'll ruin your rice. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to make our sofrito for our carne sucia. What you see here is about 1/3 of a bunch of cilantro. The way I store my cilantro is in the freezer, and then when I need it, I just bring it out and cut out what I need with a pair of kitchen scissors. After the cilantro, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to add about a tablespoon of tomato crystals or tomato powder. If you don't have that, you can use tomato paste. In addition to that, we're going to add about a teaspoon or so of this adobo with cumin. Someone actually sent me this adobo with cumin as well. The cumin gives it a little bit of an extra flavor, which is nice. I don't like it with everything, but for this, it will work great. And as you can see here, we're sprinkling about a tablespoon or so of freshly ground black pepper on top of everything else. We're going to give it a little bit of extra flavor with a full tablespoon of some minced garlic. You can add as much or as little of this minced garlic as you like. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, to give it a little bit of that authentic Dominican flavor, we're going to add a tablespoon of capers. Capers is something that you really don't want to eat on its own, but it really adds a nice layer of flavor to your foods. And of course, we're going to go to our stove here. We're going to add some of this nice olive oil that I got from Tommy G's to a pan, and we're going to go ahead and heat it up. And now that we've got it nice and hot, we're going to go ahead and add all of our spices in here, ladies and gentlemen. I usually heat up my pan pretty good. Once it's nice and hot, I go ahead and turn it on low, add my spices to it, and then just stir it around for a minute or so that everything can get covered in that oil. And right now I can tell that I'm probably going to need a little more of that olive oil, but we'll see what happens. And as you can see, I decided to put a little more olive oil. We really don't want to skimp on the olive oil, ladies and gentlemen, because this is going to allow to put a little bit of a crust on our meat and really lock in the flavors that's already inside of that meat. And plus, it really helps to bring out all of the flavors in these awesome little seasonings that we put together. Now, as you can see, everything that I've used so far is pretty straightforward stuff that you should be able to buy in any supermarket or even on Amazon if you can't find things like, for example, the Sazon Goya or the adobo. Now, we don't want to let this burn because we do have minced garlic in there, and garlic will burn pretty quickly. So once this comes together, we'll start adding our meat. And look at the color of that olive oil in there, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't that pretty? I mean, that olive oil is a little bit pricey, but I don't use it very often. I only use it when I'm making special meals like this. But it is just high quality olive oil, and I really love the little can that it comes in. Now that everything's come together, here comes the meat. I'm actually not going to be able to use all of the meat that I was able to get from those 2 hearts. I'm going to save half to go ahead and use for a different dish, maybe tomorrow. And now that we put all our meat in there, we're going to start folding everything in on itself so that we can cover all of these pieces of meat with all of that goodness and flavorful spices that we use to make our sofrito. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue to stir this on high heat until a lot of this moisture has evaporated, after which we're going to go ahead and scramble up 4 eggs. No, I'm not using Nutrient Survival eggs for this dish because I just finished the number 10 can and I have my number 10 cans in my bunker. Once we put our eggs into this little well right here, we're going to go ahead and start stirring it around until it starts to cook, and then we're going to incorporate the eggs into the meat little by little until all of the eggs are cooked. And then guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It is done. We're going to cover this up wait for our rice to finish cooking, and then we're going to plate it. Our rice is done, and as you can see, it came out perfect. Look at that nice yellow color that it has, ladies and gentlemen. And this rice right here is full of flavor. You could actually eat this rice alone as a meal. That is how tasty it is. Ladies and gentlemen, up to now I've been voicing over this video because it's a busy time of the year in the AP household. But for the plating and taste test, I will be using the original audio, so please excuse if the volume is a bit low, as it was early in the morning when I finished this video, and yes, this is what I'm having for breakfast today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is what it looks like. The rice came out very nice. And look at the beef heart. This is carne sucia, or dirty meat, as we like to call it. Now, there's many recipes to this dirty meat from different cultures, but really you can make it whatever you want. I believe that the reason behind the name dirty meat is that you take the meat and you dirty it with a whole bunch of spices and other things to include the eggs. So pretty much you can put whatever you want on it. But first, let's take a taste of the rice. See how it came out. You see, it's nice and fluffy. It came out perfect. And this is a very simple rice, and it should be very tasty. And I haven't tasted it yet. But look at how nice and fluffy that rice came out. And the rice, ladies and gentlemen, came out perfect. I mean, it really did. It has a very good flavor. It doesn't taste like chicken, even though you saw me put in some chicken bouillon in there. It doesn't taste like chicken. It just has a very nice flavor. It's not boring. I personally enjoy white rice by itself. But this right here, if you want to get a little extra flavor in your rice, this right here changes the flavor profile 100%. And it's very enjoyable, I would say, even on its own. Now let's take a look and taste and see what this beef is like. I'm going to try to grab just a piece of beef without any eggs or anything like that on it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what it looks like. It's looking really, really good. You see what I mean about the garlic? It's not completely burnt, still on there. All right, let's go for it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what. The texture on that is perfect. It lost that dense texture that it had. Remember towards the beginning of the video where I took that piece out when it was, cooking really slow, and I said that the texture was kind of tough, kind of like a dense texture. It completely lost that. It doesn't have a gamey or super beefy flavor. It tastes like regular beef that you went and bought and did this with. It doesn't taste like a beef heart, like it would taste if you just cooked it and ate it without taking the time to tenderize it by cooking it slow and steady for a good 6 to 12 hours, which is how long I cooked it. I think it was closer to 12 hours than 6. But it tastes great, ladies and gentlemen. The ingredients that I put in there, the spices that I put in there, perfect. I mean, it just came out great. I'm very happy that I did not put any more salt in it, because the salt that I put in it while it was slow cooking in the beginning was just enough salt. So it's not salty and it does not need salt. And all of the other spices that I put in there work perfect with it. Let's go ahead and see if we can grab a little piece of beef with some eggs. I really like the eggs. Look at that. And ladies and gentlemen, you can't go wrong with this. I have to switch over to my spoon because for those of you that haven't been here long, I rather eat with a spoon than with a fork. But I figured it'd be easier to show you what the meat looked like if I was holding it with a fork. Let's go ahead and take a quick bit of beef and rice. See if we can scoop a little egg in there to see how it all came together. And by the way, the dogs got lucky because when I was cutting this meat up, when I was shredding it by hand, about 4 or 6 ounces of meat fell on the floor. So they both enjoyed themselves a nice little piece of beef. Look at that. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what. Whenever I tell you that something is good or maybe not that good or something, I'm not lying to you. This, if someone served me this, I would never be able to tell that it is beef heart. I would not be able to tell. The texture is perfect. The taste, to me, tastes just like any regular slab of meat that you slow cook for hours to tenderize, usually a cheaper cut of meat, and then made it into dirty meat like I did here. If you find yourselves at a butcher shop, or find yourselves being able to grab a beef heart from somewhere because it's cheaper, in all honesty, I don't even know how cheap or how much beef hearts cost. But if I went to the store and I saw some beef hearts on sale or for a really cheap price because they were just trying to get rid of it, because most people won't buy a big beef heart and then process it like this, I would buy it just because I know how good it came out. Now, the other thing that this can be really good for is if you take it, add some peppers and onions to it and things like that, and then put it in a tortilla with a little bit of picadillo sauce and a little bit of sour cream and maybe a little Tabasco sauce. That would be an outstanding taco. So I hope that you got something out of this, ladies and gentlemen. Don't ever be afraid to try something new, because you just may not know what it is that you're missing out on. Now, I do have another piece of a cow in my freezer that someone sent me that I've never had before, and that's going to be next. Maybe we'll wait till after Christmas for that one, all right, since we're so close to Christmas now. But I have to say that this 100% is a winner. Having said that, Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I hope you're all having a very nice holiday/Christmas season, and I hope that Santa Claus brings you everything that you deserve. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.